Well, happy Saturday, folks. The real Captain Kirk here. We're live from One Bethlehem Plaza here in downtown Bethlehem. Kind of a gloomy start, but the sun's popping out now. May actually see some thunder showers here this afternoon. We were out last week. Took the Mrs. Captain Kirk and the little Angelina Kirk, not so little anymore, on Symphony of the Seas here out of Bayonne, New Jersey, heading south of Bahamas. So at the end of today's video, we'll share some of the highlights of the tour here. A lot to talk about here today. It's a little longer than normal video here, but wildfires as expected, or the number of cases at least, are about 43,381 fires so far this year. Again, is the most in 10 years. It's about 75% more than last year. So again, a lot of fires out there, some little ones, but again, something to watch here as we go through the core late summer fall season here. Still getting some of the Canadian smoke. Again, the fires aren't as extreme, but still getting some smoke from the U.S. fires and the Canadian fires spilling into the U.S. here. Looking at drought, dry to drought phase is actually the least in 6 years. So the drought has pretty much shifted to the western half of the country. Right now, only about 49% of the country is in a dry or drought phase. And that's, again, least in 6 years and actually below average. So big downward trend after the huge surge we had back on November 5th. We had 88% of the country in dry to drought phases. So improvement trend there for sure. Severe weather, again, not much here this past week or two here, but about 10% below last year now for tornadoes. Flat for hail, and winds cases are still above 10% above last year. Look at the 4-day outlook here. Again, some activity up in the upper plains, upper Midwest here, but nothing too widespread here. Tropical activity here across the world. This is kind of a 2025 season to date of all the tracks. So the Indian Ocean's been certainly active. Eastern Pacific started off active and it's lulled a bit here, but now the Atlantic's heating up here. We've got now Cat 4 Erin, again, just recently updated here this morning. So good news is it's maybe about 300 miles, hopefully, to the east of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, and about 300 miles to the west of Bermuda. So it'll split the gap here. Major hurricane for sure, though. Again, with chance at this stage it could even hit a Cat 5, but biggest impact along the east coast is going to be waves. Can certainly see some 10 to 12 foot plus waves, again, from, say, South Carolina to the northeast coastlines here, middle of this week or so. Out in the center of this thing, the models are hinting at over 50-foot waves, again, fortunately between us and Bermuda. Bermuda will have some impact, again, minimal impact, again, but it's several hundred miles away. So waves certainly can be up near 20 feet in the Bermuda area, but again, fortunately, splitting the gap here with Erin. We are only on day 76, so a lot to go here. 106 days left of the hurricane season. Peaks typically in mid-September, so a lot of activity here is expected. Thought we'd look real quick at the ocean temperature trends here. Again, kind of this ENSO neutral, meaning no La Nina, no El Nino, again, phase. Weaker PDO, weaker AMO cycles here. Solar max is kind of weakening. It's probably at its peak and maybe starting its downward trend here. So everything's generally kind of on the weaker trend here. If we look at the model guidance here for the equatorial Pacific, really, again, the IRI model is one we favor to the left here. Again, kind of a neutral, slightly negative phase, but again, not La Nina. And CFS maybe a little bit out to lunch here, overreacting to some subsurface cooler water temperatures here. So they have a brief, weak La Nina, and then back to neutral phase by winter. Again, it's TBD. Again, there, if you look at the equatorial Pacific, this is a cross-section below the surface now going down several hundred meters deep. You can recently see here some below average water temperatures in the eastern Pacific. We'll see. There's a lot of above average around that as well. So again, I think the CFS is a little overreacting to that. Looking at year-to-date hot 90-degree days, U.S. still trending about the same, minus 5% versus last year, still 7th most in 40 years, so not record-shattering on any level. Again, media may be overhyping this to an extent. Don't want to say it's not been a warm summer, it certainly has, but again, just not as hot as last year. Northeast down even more, down about 11% versus last year, 7th most in 40 years. Look at the 2-week outlook here. Again, a few more hot days here this week here, but then a major cooling trend looks like for the parts of eastern half of the country here. But next 2 weeks to get us to round out through the end of August here, down about 13% nationally, least in 3 years. Northeast down big time, down 60% for the hot days last year, and least in 8 years and below average. So again, a couple more hot days here in the east this weekend, and then a cooling trend. Look at last week world summer here ending today. Here in the U.S., about 2.5 warmer than last year, 6th warmest in 40 years. Hot 90-degree days up about 39%, most in 4 years, and wetter, 38% wetter, kind of in the middle of the pack. Very warm there in the UK, about warmest in 3 years, 3rd warmest in 40. Europe, number 1 hottest in 40 plus years, so number 1 driest. So warm and dry was a theme across Europe. Cool spot maybe down there in Brazil, coolest in 12 years. Big map here again is the trends versus last year, how our clients would like to look at it, year-on-year weather, and maps inset left are the trends versus average. If we look at this week here, middle August here, again, kind of a warmer trend here, except for the East Coast. Again, we have a warm Sunday here and then a cool front coming through for the immediate East Coast. So U.S. overall, though, is going to be 2.4 warmer than last year, 6 warmest in 40 years. Hot 90-degree days up 26%, third most in 40 years. And precip up about 28%, wettest in 3. Still below average here. So, again, some thunderstorm activity in the eastern half of the country here, but nothing too crazy, again, with the hurricane staying off the coast here. If we look at next week, hard to believe this is the week before Labor Day, September 1st here, so week ending the 30th. See that big cool trend kind of cooling down in the Midwest, Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic for sure. 3.5 cooler than last year nationally, coolest in 6 years, 17th coolest in 40 years, so below average national temperatures. Hot 90-degree days down about 45%, least in 6 years. 17th least in 40 years, and precip down. So this time of year for back-to-school retail seasonal sales, we like to see cooler, wetter weather. That helps for you and I stop thinking beach and lakes and outdoor summer activities and starting to think about fall. We do actually have a tropical threat here. Some models, again, we'll see. It's out there in week 2 time frame, but again, model hinting at something toward the Texas, Louisiana, Gulf Coast here as we get into this late August period. So 'tis the season. You got to watch activity because there's anything can flare up rather quickly. And we just aggregate these World 2-week outlook temperature trends here through the 30th of August. The general theme will be a cooling trend for eastern Canada, the northeast U.S., and cooling there in eastern Europe. Look at the precip trends here again. So again, generally a dry theme again for the U.S. Corn Belt. Again, farmers will be starting to harvest here pretty soon with what's going to be appears to be a record-shattering crop, a huge crop, actually, again, way above last year's record crop. So with that, folks, again, we'll end here with some of the highlights from the Simona, Mrs. Captain Kirk birthday cruise that went to the Bahamas. So with that, folks, have a great week ahead. Where are you, Seagull?
Go, go, go!